'cause it's here and it's now. Just move every bolt. We're cosmic powwow, cosmic powwow, cosmic powwow. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Toward a Quality of Life here from the Roxbury studio of Boston Neighborhood Network TV. We're here in the month of January, year 2010. We're in the future. The future is now. Today I'm going to talk to you about the President of the United States, and I'm calling this lecture Against the Will of the People. And I must admit that Barack Obama being in the White House with his 2 children and his lovely wife is a very compelling picture, especially when you see little Sasha along his side. It is compelling. But you have to be watching with this president what he does and not what he says. An awful lot of damage has been done to the country, and even more damage is going to be done, such that we're going to have hell, if ever, to get out of this. Now, there is a lot of myth to Obama, and there's so much to say, and I have a very short time, so I can't get into every detail. I will try to go through some things and hope you can follow what I'm saying. I'm trying to tell you that if you look over the broad United States, that we have a government now that is ignoring the will of the people, that is not governing by consent of the government, and that we have a form of dictatorship in as much as people have grabbed power, they won't let go, and they're stuffing legislation and spending and things that people are begging and pleading and screaming don't do, the majority, according to polls. Now, people do like the president as a person, but as far as his policies go, they can't take it. The overwhelming amount of people cannot take it. Now, also, the person who is his chief of staff, Ron Emanuel, is really not a very nice person. This kind of a person being in that position, as well as Valerie Jarrett and David Axelrod, oh my goodness. And then you add Pelosi and Reid and everybody else, and it's a horrible situation. And I think that the people who believe, and I know it's very hard to follow if you work and if you get the evening news, and you know that the newscasts, for the most part, the major channels are all in Obama's camp. In fact, they even come in the White House to do their news through the White House. So it's, you can't believe what you're hearing. It's all adoration of him, as is MSNBC and CNN. CNN less so these days. But nonetheless, and so I know it's hard if you don't have the time to really follow, but I do follow, and you've got to watch what this president is doing, not what this president is saying. Now, and people are fools. The United States is being fooled, and many, many people who voted for Barack Obama do feel that they have been fooled at this point in time. And of course, if you don't really follow what the government is doing, you get the government that you deserve. Now, once again, don't listen to what he says, watch what he does. And so much is done in the dead of night, on a Christmas vacation, on the Thanksgiving, on the weekend, with nothing really being said about it. So many things are being done, being pushed through, even without the right congressional approval, even without the protocol that by law has to be there, just getting done. So much flying so fast that a lot of stuff is just going without people recognizing that it's there at all. Now, I would say that Mr. Obama is the most stealth, as I have said before, and thereby the most deceitful president to come down the line in a long time. I would say that he has, for whatever reason, a communist goal. And it's not called communism anymore. Call it progressive, call it what you will. But what he has in mind, if you really look at what he's doing, not what he's saying, the true things that are happening, we're going to a place you don't want to be unless you want to live like the people in Cuba, like the people in China, or the people in Venezuela. Now, there is also a great deal of lying, and of course lying goes on in every administration, but what makes this, why I have to bring it out so explicitly is because he's supposed to be so good, people believing that whatever he's doing is going to be for their benefit, or that it's going to go some kind of way that it's all going to work out in the end. So it has a particular problem with it when people are really being misled and deceived. For example, Obama will put a spin that he's getting at the fat cats on Wall Street, and he even used that term. But the fact of the matter is that the public, many in the public know, but not the ones who adore him, and not many other people know, that it's the fat cats that have profited, that have robbed our treasury, have been allowed to rob our treasury, continue to rob our treasury, and are doing just fine and have had some of their best financial years under Obama in a long time. Okay, and that also about health care. He's willing to take anything for health care. You know, I didn't fight for the public option, which I didn't care for. I believe in health care. We'll get into that. But he's willing to take anything, and telling people on such a major legislation, the likes of which has never come down the pike since World War II, never has something so massive that's going to change the way we live and cost us like we can't believe come through. And they're doing it. Did you ever see anything like this process going on? And he doesn't really care what's in there. Anything will do. He's pushing them. Just get it done. Just get it done. It doesn't matter. And, for example, lying. He told us that if it weren't passed, the country would go bankrupt. No, all the spending he has done, and the spending, Bush did spending like this that shouldn't have been done. Obama does spending like this. He is put us in red ink up to our ears. He told us health care would be paid for. It will not. He told us our costs won't go up. They will. And wait till you see how long you're going to be waiting in line, and wait till you see the things you're not going to get, especially if you have heart disease, kidney disease, a cancer that's not too favorable to treatment, and so on. I'm trying to shake you out of your hypnotic trance. If there were anyone else but Barack Obama who seems to have some kind of sway over people, he would never be able to do the things he's doing. For one thing, his ethnicity helps him, but for the other, for some reason, he's a very likable person and very persuasive to people. But he is doing bad things to this country, and we are going towards a life of greater servitude, greater servitude. Now, I was in the grocery stores a couple of days ago, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods. People are miserable. They're working their fingers to the bone. Do you think you can make your rent? Do you think you can pay for basic things you need working jobs like that, even if you work overtime? No, you can't. And guess what? It's not going to get easier. It's getting harder. Life is getting harder. Have you noticed? A lot of damage has been done. Now, like I said, they no longer seem to call it communism. They call it progressivism. The people in his administration, many of them are outright favorable to communists. Chairman Mao hung on the Christmas tree on one ball over the Christmas time in the White House. There were cookies, by the way, made in an acorn shape, and we've talked about acorn before. The person who awarded him the Peace Prize is an avowed communist. The head of that committee is himself a communist, and before Obama was president, he himself talked about, and if you research, many, many more connections to people of the Marxist persuasion. Now, all his records are sealed, as I tell you every time, and the only thing you're supposed to go on is what he's written in the books. But if you do a lot of research, boy, you will find out a lot more. So like I say, it's a stealth, it's veiled, it's in that sense deceitful. Also, it's, you know, when you have a guy who's so revered, like if he were to slap somebody's face, they would say, well, it's because there was a fly there and he prevented him from having, or a mosquito, he prevented him from having a bite. If he were to kill somebody, they'd say he prevented him from having agony. He prevented the person from agonizing in their last hours. There's always an excuse. But being that there's anything he does is so adored by those who adore him, it's like, it's why it's so bad. It's like if a priest has sex with children or people for that matter, or it's like a judge who takes a bribe when they're not really as holy as people might think they are. There's an awful lot to the birthing issue, and I'll give you just one example. I don't care about it, and I don't want to get into it, but There were some people in the military who were going to be deployed to Iraq, so they said, all right, here's our chance. We're saying we're not going because Obama's not a natural-born citizen of the country. Guess what? So they thought they'd get to take it to court and go all the way with it. Guess what? When they showed up to be deployed, the military said, it's okay, you don't have to go. True story. Now imagine, why did that happen? And there's lots of inaccuracies, like Obama having said where he met his wife, that has differed on different occasions, where he was born, which hospital, that has differed. He said he'd be transparent. Even C-SPAN is saying, hey, you promised we'd have the cameras on what you're doing. In fact, they've gone behind closed doors to do their dirty deals and to do things that are not going to be good for the people of the United States of America. He said there'd be no earmarks. There are earmarks galore, crazy in the stimulus bill, things going to zip codes that don't even exist, and things that are earmarks that aren't helping people to get jobs, but the money's gone and the money is going. He said no lobbyists. There are lobbyists galore. He said there'd be open government. People have to fight to get information of who visits the White House, and other things done in secret, like other presidents. We won't name their names that we complained about. He said they'd be bipartisan. Well, guess what? The partisanship is more severe now than it's ever been before. And by the way, he said he never practiced the Muslim religion. And looking back, witnesses, teachers now with more known about him, oh, he practiced it very well as a young boy and wore the clothing and went to mosque and did prayers. For example, for example, for example. And these Democrats and Republicans, they walk on thick carpets. These are mostly very wealthy people that know what's best. They don't understand people like the Tea Party. They talk about them like the dirty unwashed. These are the people that are deciding the fates of our future. Now, the ideas that Obama has, and he has an overriding plan, so a lot of stuff in between can go down, but the overriding thing is what he's going for. And his ideas are not good for us. The damage has been great. The damage already, some of it, is beyond repair. And if you believe in this stuff, I'm telling you that you are being foolish. He's a master illusionist, and we are deluded. Let's look at his associations. Revolutionary radicals, some of them involved in Muslim propositions about radicalism. Unions are his key. Andy Stern, go read about Andy Stern, who visited the White House in this time more than any other person. Go read what kind of shenanigans and unionization. They plan, even in this healthcare bill, eventually to unionize doctors and to give more benefits to the unions, because it's a way of organizing and controlling people. And Andy Stern's background is he makes deals with corporations about the workers. He works with the corporation instead of against the corporation, and makes deals such that people can't speak out about conditions of working, or he manages what their rate of pay will be, or that grievances are more distant than from their local representatives to try to make your grievances heard. Go read about him, and go read about the thuggishness of the SEIU run by Andy Stern, a very close worker with Barack Obama, who had input on the health care bill. Look at Acorn, whom he was a lawyer for and whom he did training for, and their philosophy to overwhelm the system that it'll cave under the weight. La Raza, some of which in this group plans to take back the territories that were won from it in the Spanish War, the Southwest and parts of California. Radical environmentalists and I'm an environmentalist, but forget this cap and trade. What a horrible thing. You will be paying so much for electricity. It will tell you when to wash your clothes, when to do your dishes, and we'll be like Venezuela, where they ration the electricity now because there's not enough of it and people can't afford it. And also, this president is on TV night and day. Some days he might come on 3 times. What other president did you ever see that constantly going on the TV telling you something like dictating to your life? And it could be, you know, the way he just reads. He never speaks. He reads and he reads and he says, for an ensuring your existence in the metropolis. Always. He never speaks. Why? Remember the one time or two that he spoke, and either he's done a really poor job, or remember when he gave away that he wanted to spread the wealth around with Joe the plumber? So maybe it's in order to not say anything of what's really on his mind. And he never does really rolls up his sleeves, and not that he couldn't, but he doesn't, to intricately know, even like, for example, what the health care bill is about. He uses sleight of hand, he glosses over, and he thinks he's just going to make it all happen somehow. And his record of what he's done to date, it doesn't pan out in the end. And a lot of things are not going to pan out here either. Good at having huge amounts of money go through his hands, even before he was president, and getting people to follow him. And well, I won't go into some of the specifics, but you know that many people most of us don't know what's in the health care bill today. Even Democrats don't know what's in the health care bill today. And he certainly didn't get out there and make it known to people what's in there. A 2,000+ page bill, and coming down the road, and the process, so sneaky, so behind closed doors, and so rotten and so wasteful of giving people all this favorable extra money in order to sign on to the bill. Now, I do believe that health care is a right, and I do believe that the 30 million, if in fact there's more than 30 million that aren't insured, have to be insured. But if you were really sincere, and if the country were in such financial trouble, which it is, and which it was at the time he took office, wouldn't it be much smarter to do an incremental approach of making sure that those that aren't insured were insured? Would that not be the sincere way to go about this? Because the real reason for all of this to happen is that it's all part of a plan to have more government control over people. I don't want government controlling me, what I'm going to say, what I'm going to do, how I'm going to live. And our standard of living is going down, and boy, is it going to continue. Who do you think is going to be paying for welfare, for Social Security, for Medicare, for any of the things, roads, bridges, who's going to be paying when there's no money, when all the money is gone, and when people have been cut off at their legs as to being able to be independent and move ahead and make some money so the country can have some money to exist? And in healthcare, you're going to have waits like you've never seen, and you're going to be denied a lot of things that you've come to expect. I say get rid of everybody that's in the government, all of Congress, both parties, and the only ones I've seen that are halfway decent in this Congress are Ron Paul, Bernie Sanders, who is a communist and is a socialist, but he's clear about it. He tells you exactly where he stands. He makes no bones about it. And Dennis Kucinich. None of these do I necessarily favor or agree with, but they're the three few who stay the way they are throughout, vote the way they are throughout, speak the way they are throughout. Remember, and you know what, if you don't go along with this president, he will come down on you heavy in a thuggish sort of way. He and his henchmen, they will come down. And at first you get a call and they let you know. And if you don't follow along with that, they tell you, and they will. They make fools of you publicly. They tried to eliminate Fox News as even a news channel that could cover the White House. They ridiculed, there's so many people, you don't know Rick Santelli, but they ridiculed him. Anybody that goes against them, they start a campaign of ridiculing them. We've never seen something like that out of the White House. Now, they called the Tea Parties teabaggers, and I happened to go look up what that word means. And I was shocked. I knew it had some sexual innuendo because that's what I had heard. But this leftists, all these mad leftists that have grabbed the power, referred to the Tea Party. And I tell you out there, if you met Tea Partiers, you would find that they are just like you. The vast majority, they are not militia. Many are Democrats. Many voted for Obama. They are people worried about the spending and their rights to free speech and their rights to live the way they want and not have the government put us in such debt that we're all drudging along according to a government control. Now, you know, lies too. doctors. He said the doctors were with him. He gave them coats to wear. Do you know that the vast majority, 71% or more, are so against this? Do you know that many of them went to Washington and protested? Doctors took the day off. It wasn't even really covered by the news. Thousands, and the first time 1.7 million Tea Partiers, and then thousands more when they were closer to time and before Christmas went there. Ignored, ignored, ignored. Okay, now this is a very bad chapter for the United States of America, for our freedom, and for the voice of the people. The people. This is a country where what the people want is what they're supposed to get. Not when you've got the power, you grab it, go behind closed doors, and you do it anyway. Okay. What are they going to tell us, too? One of their biggest things is to tell us about how homosexuality is okay and should be universal and no problem, and that abortion is okay and that you should get it on demand anytime, some of their pet things. Now, Bush used the military. I remember when he stood up there in the first and second year and he said, you know, come on, I'm the United States. I'm thinking to myself, whoa, you would dare to take our military with that kind of attitude like it's at your disposal? Well, Obama stands up there. He doesn't say it, but he says, all this money, free money, it grows on trees. Let me just spend it. I mean, spend it beyond ways that even the biggest money managers can't fathom the amounts. Okay, so, and I cannot get over, I will never get over, and I believe I'm the only one that pointed it out in January when he took office. We were in such a crisis, which we are still in. We are still in. And instead of addressing that we had 2 wars on our hands, okay, for president, he's the commander-in-chief, and that economy was totally messed up. Instead of addressing that, he went ahead with this health care, cap and trade. Who can forgive him for that? Who can forgive him for that? That's what he did. The war and the economy were the last things on his mind. And now people don't even seem to say, hey, it's a year later, you're just discovering that we're out here hurting. And with the military, when you have a war, and this applies to black, white, straight, gay, rich, poor, when you have a war, you'd better be joined at the hip with your generals. You'd better be in communication with them every day, and you'd better worry about that #1 priority. But no, he was not in touch with General McChrystal for 3 months, who had to speak publicly about it to get his attention, and then he met him for 25 minutes on his way to Copenhagen. Is this any way for a commander-in-chief to go about it? Not in my mind. And the economy. That in January, who cares that he wants this health care to control people, to have government? It's the expansion of government, the expansion of government. He did not fill the vacancies in the Treasury Department. He left them empty while he went about, we're going to do cap and trade, we're going to do, and here we are in a financial crisis. Can that be forgiven? I don't think so. I don't think so. And the people running away with our money, the Wall Street fat cats, so to speak, are having a great time. And if you were to go and read about it, you would know these things if you did more than just watch the evening news. Because that you are not going to get the information there. And guess what? They just they're working on a new law, the regulation of the financial firms, which is going to give them more protections once again should they need a bailout. They just opened the spigot for Fannie and Freddie to have unlimited money. They just gave GMAC, which goes with GM, which he took over. Remember the car company that the government took over? Okay, he's giving them more money, and he's helping another branch of them, GMAC, just gave them more money. They're in the red, and he's giving them